10. Fast food fiasco. Things went horribly awry at a Jack-in-the-Box drive-thru in Spanaway, Washington recently when a young man named Christian Dressel spotted a truck that he thought belonged to his girlfriend's other lover. The 22-year-old allegedly rammed his car into the vehicle's rear end to spark a confrontation. He then ran him over before backing up over the victim, unaware that the person he attacked was not the man he suspected his girlfriend of cheating on him with. The 68-year-old victim, a grandfather named James David Brown, died from his injuries. He had no connection to Dressel, who fled the scene. According to court documents, the alleged killer's mother had turned him into police, who charged him with first-degree murder, second-degree murder, and tampering with evidence. The young man reportedly admitted to huffing computer duster before spotting Brown's vehicle and flying into a rage. He claimed that he didn't mean to hurt anyone and pleaded not guilty to the charges. Dressel's bail was set at the deliberately high amount of $1.5 million after police learned that he had tried to sell his vehicle with plans to flee the area before his arrest. His criminal history of gun and domestic violence charges were also considered in determining his bail. 9. Swallowed by a sinkhole. Turkish shopkeeper Ömer Kakagan recently stepped outside one afternoon to smoke a cigarette and make a phone call, as he often did when there were no customers inside his store in Istanbul. Out of nowhere, the ground collapsed beneath him and swallowed him into a 20-foot sinkhole, along with a vending machine that fell on top of the man and spilled cans of soda everywhere. Kakagan was extremely lucky to only suffer minor injuries. Nearby shopkeepers alerted the authorities and firefighters rescued him less than a half hour later. Officials said they were investigating the cause of the sinkhole, which happened in an area some say there used to be a well. The incident happened at around the same time a heroic chocolate lab named Wrigley found a missing gold retriever named Macy in a 5-foot sinkhole at a park in central Illinois. Macy had vanished nearly 24 hours earlier when Wrigley found her and alerted his owner. The hole expanded as firefighters struggled to retrieve the dog, but they eventually managed to get Macy out of the hole safely and reunited her with her owner. She was covered in mud but emerged from the ordeal without any injuries. 8. In the wrong place at the wrong time. The quiet college town of Potsdam, New York, was left shaken recently when a 21-year-old university student named Elizabeth Howell was shot dead on a roadside near her campus. After discovering her body, police warned residents to keep their doors locked and travel in groups. They later determined that the shooting appeared to be an isolated incident, but it still made no sense. It's unclear whether Elizabeth knew her alleged killer, 31-year-old Michael Snow, but the suspect wasn't a student at the university and has no known connections to it. And the slain woman's parents told the New York Post that she was liked by all and truly had no enemies. They believed that her daughter was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time, and she paid for it with her life. Snow is currently being held without bail as he faces a second-degree murder charge. His neighbors told Hudson Valley 360 that he had mentioned completing a drug rehab program, but otherwise seemed like a harmless and mostly normal person. The suspect's landlord, David Seguin, said that he had found over 100 spent canisters of nitrous oxide in Snow's apartment, suggesting that he was ingesting the gas to get high. Seguin also reportedly pulled the man's car out of a snowbank twice in a 5-minute period on the morning of the murder and described Snow as being higher than a kite. His former boss, Angela Masso, called him a predator and a weirdo, and said that he had problems with women and drugs. She said that Snow quit his job because he claimed that his addiction issues prevented him from being able to work. While none of these qualities outwardly indicate that he was capable of committing murder, it's enough to make one wonder in hindsight if there were signs that he was a ticking time bomb, waiting to explode. 7. From vacation to jail. While waiting to board a plane at Los Angeles International Airport for a family vacation to Mexico last year, 30-year-old Bethany Farber heard her name being called over the loudspeaker. Transportation Security Administration (TSA) agents took her into an interrogation room where she languished for hours after being told that she couldn't board her flight because she was a fugitive wanted in Texas. Farber repeatedly insisted that she had never even been to Texas and urged them to cross-check their records to make sure they weren't making a mistake, but her claims fell on deaf ears. Officers from the Los Angeles Police Department, LAPD, retrieved her from the airport and took her to jail, where she remained for the next 2 weeks until the authorities realized that they had the wrong Bethany Farber. She sued the LAPD for failing to verify her identity and wrongful arrest and detainment. A side-by-side comparison of Farber and the wanted woman she shared a name with showed that the two women looked nothing alike, suggesting that the mistake may have been discovered much sooner if more was done to ensure that the correct person was in custody. Farber told National Public Radio that the ordeal has left her plagued by anxiety and post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms. She also believes that her arrest triggered the death of her grandmother, who had a stroke after hearing the distressing news. 6. Innocent bystanders pay with their lives. In late February, two parties became entangled in a deadly shootout after a green Chevy Suburban was seen circling a gas station on San Antonio's north side and then parking in the lot. Someone approached the vehicle in what appeared to be an illicit exchange of some sort, and a passenger stepped out of the car with a gun in their hand. Moments later, the parties were spraying bullets at one another. Police rushed to the scene, but there was nothing they could do to save the lives of 14-year-old Christopher James Mejia and 66-year-old Enrique Bocanegra. Mejia was identified as the armed passenger who exited the car. Bocanegra was inside his home nearby when he was fatally shot. Another one of the car's passengers was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. The 17-year-old male, two other juveniles, and a 21-year-old suspect named Oscar Martinez all face capital murder charges. One of the suspects told investigators that the violence erupted after Mejia tried to wrestle a bag of drugs out of another individual's hands. Surveillance footage shows that there was a struggle between the two shortly before gunfire erupted. San Antonio Police Chief William McManus admittedly struggled to contain his anger over the senseless violence, telling local station KSAT that he thinks it's insane how some people have no respect for the safety of others. Bocanegra was a regular at the convenience store where the shooting happened and always had a smile on his face, according to the manager, Bashat Hussein. The man's neighbor, Enrique Flores, remembered the victim as a well-liked community member who was always helping others before his life was needlessly cut short. 5. Mistaken identity revenge killing. 29-year-old Amanda Young was left absolutely devastated by the murder of her boyfriend, Louis Rupena, in late 2020. He was killed in a road rage shooting in Southern California, prompting his family and friends to begin a so-called street investigation to find his killer. They concluded that a local rapper named Cuddy Banks was responsible for Rupena's murder, even though police had cleared Banks of any suspicion in the case. Banks, whose real name is Malata Lassi, was shot to death after Amanda convinced her deceased boyfriend's brother that he was the killer. Witnesses told police that Isaiah Rupena shot the victim at least 5 times before fleeing the scene on foot. He abandoned his car in California before returning to his home in Oklahoma, where law enforcement tracked him down and apprehended him 3 months later. Police charged Rupena with homicide, while Amanda faced murder and conspiracy charges for her role in the deadly case of mistaken identity. 4. Robbery gone wrong. 41-year-old Tony Earls was using a drive-through ATM in Houston on Valentine's Day when someone approached his vehicle and robbed him at gunpoint. The victim pulled out his gun and opened fire on the suspect, who fled the scene. At some point, Earls became confused and mistook an innocent family's car for the robber's vehicle. He shot at it while Armando and Gwen Alvarez told their 9-year-old daughter, Arlene, to duck down. But the little girl was wearing headphones and couldn't hear her parents and was struck by a bullet. The family had stopped at the ATM on their way to a pizzeria for Valentine's Day dinner when their plans were interrupted. Arlene was rushed to the hospital where doctors tried their best to save her, but she died from her injuries. Unaware that he had shot anyone, Earls left the scene and reported the robbery to police. He faces a charge of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. The suspect who robbed Earls is still at large. Speaking with CNN, the Alvarez family's lawyer said that Earls lacks a self-defense case because he shot at the suspect after he fled the scene and no longer posed an immediate threat to anyone's safety. Regardless of how the case plays out, things will never be the same for Arlene's family, who had to say goodbye to their daughter before turning off the machines that were keeping her alive. 3. Homeless on a moment's notice. As Storm Franklin battered parts of England earlier this year, Simon Sugden woke up to find firefighters evacuating residents from their homes in his West Yorkshire neighborhood. Emergency personnel told the man that he had to leave after floodwaters had triggered a landslide, causing portions of several residents' backyards to collapse into a nearby river. They rescued Mr. Sugden, his 5-year-old daughter, and his cat. Sugden suddenly found himself living at a local travel lodge hotel with no clear plan for what his next step was, while his daughter stayed with her mother. He had been there for 5 days when he told Yorkshire Live that it was still considered unsafe for him to return home, and his homeowner's insurance would only cover his stay for 2 more weeks. The distraught homeowner was upset that he couldn't access his personal belongings and furniture, and because the property has sentimental value. It's been in Mr. Sugden's family for generations and is where his father's ashes were buried. He said that he would ideally like to return home, but if that isn't an option, he's hoping to receive compensation equivalent to the building's market value. A spokesperson for the Association of British Insurance told the BBC that extreme weather events are expected to become more common as climate change accelerates, which unfortunately means that many more people may soon find themselves in positions similar to Simon's. 2. Mistakenly suspended license. Earlier this year, a registered nurse named Maria Vargas received a letter from the Illinois government informing her that her license was about to be suspended. She had been flagged as part of the National Driver Registry Program, which was designed to prevent unsafe drivers from obtaining licenses in other states. Vargas was penalized based on the poor driving record of someone from Massachusetts with the same name and birth date. She knew it was a mistake, but convincing the authorities of this and getting the mess sorted out proved to be a major headache. In addition to facing the prospect of not being able to drive to her job, the stress of the situation caused her to get sick and miss work. An online search led Vargas to a collection of stories about the NBC 10 Boston investigators helping unfairly penalized drivers out of complicated situations. She reached out to the team and asked for their help with her nightmarish predicament. Not long after that, a representative from the Massachusetts Registry of Motor Vehicles contacted Vargas to sort things out. She received a letter in the mail clearing her of any responsibility in the traffic violations after her height and eye color proved that there had been a mix-up and that she was not the offending driver. While the federal government has taken steps to improve the National Driver Register, cases like this prove that it's not foolproof. 1. Misdirected bullying. Shortly after Russia invaded Ukraine in late February, a South Florida realtor named Ekaterina Lavrova began receiving harassing and threatening messages and phone calls. People were mistaking her for the daughter of Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, who has the same name. They even went so far as posting photos of Miss Lavrova, publicly sharing her home address and targeting her real estate business. Speaking with local station WSVN, the victim of mistaken identity said that people were telling her to burn in hell, that she should be deported, and threatening to take over her apartment and turn it into housing for Ukrainian refugees. Numerous fake social media accounts were created, and Lavrova was left fearing for her and her family's safety, all because amateur internet detectives were quick to assume that she was the disgraced foreign minister's daughter. As she pointed out, it only takes one crazy person for something terrible to happen. Lavrova reported the harassment on Twitter, but the social media platform declined to remove the harmful content, stating in its response to her complaints that there were no apparent violations of its policies. Frustrated that her reports fell on deaf ears, she went to the news for help, setting the record straight with a simple message that she is not related to the Russian foreign minister. Thanks for watching. Would you rather lose your driver's license in a case of mistaken identity or have your car fall into a sinkhole? Let us know in the comments below and don't forget to hit subscribe. See you next time. Bye.